got the fire flow. Shorty getting down, going up the fire pole. Radical, intermittent where we mad cold. I got the bullfrog flow, you a tadpole. Feel the love, feel the rush, feel the buzz, let it brush ya. Bald eagle clutch.
Welcome to someone's favorite movie. My name is Randy. I'm coming to you from the Pod Shack outside beautiful Flint, Michigan, USA. With me, my co-host, the man who was once a lonely, lowly house cat and was then changed into a mighty Tomko in a freak experiment by Randy Quaid. And boy, are we thankful for it.
Oh, I long for my house cat days.
Yeah,
those were the days, sir.
Yeah, were those days perfect?
They were indeed well played.
Yeah, that's what I do. Play things well.
So how are things at the Pod Shack these days, sir?
The walls are still standing. The roof is over my head. Nothing's burned down yet. I think we're doing good.
All right.
I mean, the entire world might be burning down around me, but the shack is still standing, baby.
The shack will always stand.
Hell yeah.
The shack is forever.
Shack is forever. Shaquille O'Neal forever in our hearts. It takes a village to make a podcast, and this week, special shout-outs to D-Boy for providing our theme song. Special shout-outs for Tomko for being our co-host. Special shout-outs to Brandon Chapman for providing the episode artwork.
Yes, Brandon, you are amazing, sir.
You are amazing. And special shout-outs to you, dear listener, for taking the time out of your busy schedule to download this and put it squarely into your ear holes. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you to Randy for inviting me along. This is always fun.
Always a hoot. And today we've got a movie that's probably the prime example of what this program is all about. Spotlighting those hard to find, can you even believe this existed at any point types of movies. And this one is called Freaked.
Now, this was a movie that when you first suggested it, I think I had probably the same reaction that 90% of the people who hear about this movie have, where I'm thinking you're talking about the movie from the 30s, by Todd Browning, featuring real-life circus freaks.
Yeah. Have you ever seen that, by the way?
Bits and pieces.
Okay. No, I've never seen it. I've always wanted to. I've known it's existed for years, but I just never took the time.
I'll have to get you a copy. It's genuinely unsettling.
I did hear it's unsettling.
It's good.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's deserving of its praise, but it definitely is. It
is.
It's not the kind of movie you sit down with the family and watch every Thanksgiving. Let's put it that way.
Okay. Well, maybe some families. You can't cast a wide net like that. Oh, wow.
Maybe. I could see old Charlie enjoying that with Squeaky.
Tomko, before we get into the Freaked movie, we have this segment where we talk about things that we've been watching, and I have to ask you, what you been watching, sir?
You know what? It's been kind of busy at the household. I have been plugging away at the Clone Wars. I think I've gotten over the hump where it's no longer strictly a kid's show, I hope. It's starting to get interesting. Beyond that, not really a whole lot. I'm kind of slacking off on what I'm watching because I've been ordering omnibuses left and right off of various websites. So I'm actually doing more reading than I am watching right now.
Oh, goodness. What have you been ordering there?
I've got the Garth Ennis Hellblazer omnibus that I'm plowing through right now. On its way, I've got a couple of Justice Leagues, a bunch of Daredevils, and the newly released 100 Bullets omnibus, as well as the special colorized version of From Hell.
Excellent. I have a bunch of omnibuses, and I love how they look. I have not dove into them. I kind of bought them when they first came out because I was afraid they were going to go out of print.
Mm.
So I have the first 3 volumes of Teen Titans from the 80s.
Okay.
I have the Mighty Thor, Walt Simonson omnibus. I have the first volume of the Fantastic Four by John Byrne.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah. I need to get the second volume, but I have the first volume of The Amazing Spider-Man. So,
I do too, actually. I got that signed by Stan Lee a couple of years ago.
you lucky devil.
Lucky devil, my ass! It cost me $100 to get it signed.
It's worth it. What else?
A fool and his money, sir.
Yeah, I've got Justice League Omnibus, the Giffen McGuire years.
Yes, I got that as well. I got that signed as well.
Jeez, look at you. I've got Daredevil by Mark Waid, the first edition. And
I do not have that one.
And I have Hawkeye by Matt Fraction.
Okay. Actually, I do have that Hawkeye. That was one of the better runs on any like third string character I've ever read. Now the problem with, and I know we shouldn't be talking about this on a movie podcast, but I love omnibuses in that it has everything all in one spot between two covers, but they're kind of unwieldy.
They're very unwieldy. They're super thick and heavy, and I'm terrified
Suitable
of turning
for home
pages.
Defense.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, literally, I have to use a pillow while holding them in my lap because it starts to hurt after a while.
I mean, if Kevin McAllister was a comic fan, he would have tied those to a rope instead of paint cans and smashed the wet bandits.
And he'd have killed him some leaky bandits.
Yep, this is true.
Yes. But no, they're fun to collect, and they look amazing on bookshelves.
Yeah. And the Matt Fraction Hawkeye is, from what I gather, is what the Hawkeye series on Disney Plus is going to be based off of. At least it looks like it.
It does. I just hope they have the special episode told from the point of view of the dog.
Pizza Dog, yeah. Definitely.
Yes.
What
about you, sir? I'm assuming that we're going to eventually talk about what we're actually watching.
Yeah.
I ain't watching jack shit, but what about you?
I got a few things that I've been watching. So I watched this movie from Vinegar Syndrome called Blood Games. And I love Vinegar Syndrome. They're a company that's, well, basically they rescue all the weird and interesting and sometimes surprisingly good movies that people forgot about. They rescue them from obscurity and put them out clean them up real nice, put them out on Blu-ray. I mean, that's how I discovered Tammy and the T-Rex. But this one is called Blood Games. They're really the perfect company for this podcast, and they should totally sponsor us. So get on that, Vinegar.
Come on
now. Blood Games is about a touring female baseball team, and they seem to go from town to town and kind of hustle local redneck men's teams for money because they're really good at baseball. And usually the men that they go up against are arrogant and drunk.
Serves them right to get hustled.
Yep. And of course, since they're women, all the redneck white trash in the towns always bet against them. And then Babe's baseball team whoops them and they collect their winnings. This time, the town they go into, it's kind of run by a rich scumbag. He kind of runs the town, and he tries to not pay them, which causes their manager, Babe, this dude that runs the team. A couple of his daughters are on the team. He goes to beat the guy up and take the money. Two of the girls on the team go to check on him and provide backup, but the rich scumbag's son and his doofus friend attack them and try to sexually assault them. So long story long story short, what happens is Babe gets stabbed, one of the team members gets shot in the head, and the boss's son gets hit by a bus. Whoops. So this starts an entire bounty hunting scenario where the rich scumbag offers up rewards for all the women dead, and of course his gang of rednecks are eager to take that challenge. And what results is a bunch of violence and a tension-filled chase. There is a rape scene in this one that's kind of disturbing. Those things always bother me. So if you're,
I was going to say, aren't they all?
Yeah, I mean, if you're equally disturbed by such things, just be aware it's there. It was a lot better than it had any right to be, this movie, and I'm glad I watched it at least once. Definitely worth a viewing, I think.
Now, is this streaming or is this good old-fashioned physical media?
Good old-fashioned physical media, or if you're really, really stealthy, you can find it on the YouTube as well.
Oh.
Yeah. I also watched a movie called Rogue. Are you familiar with this?
I know I've heard of it. Remind me, sir.
It's Megan Fox versus an angry lion.
Oh, wow. I know who I'm rooting for.
Oh. So in this one, Megan Fox is the leader of a mercenary team, and they drop into Africa to rescue a senator's daughter. who's been kidnapped, and she's been moved into a sex trafficking trade. So there's a lion.
It happens.
Yeah, there's a lion in the same camp because these creeps move black market pelts and whatnot. Well, they kind of botch the killing of this lion and basically just pisses it off. So, long story short, Megan Fox and her team are hiding out in this building from the terrorists, and the lion starts picking off her team one by one. The CGI in this movie is so awful. Like sci-fi original movie levels. It is so bad. Anytime the lion attacks anybody, it's a CGI lion. And you could probably do better on your MacBook than what this looks like. I mean, there's ways around it. You could have treated it like Jaws or something where you never really see the lion attack at the beginning. You know? It's kind of save that budget for when it actually matters. But no, they're like, no, this lion looks good enough. No, it doesn't.
Man, I bet you anything that somewhere out in Hollywood, Melanie Griffith is feeling really smug.
Right? She's like, I faced off against a real lion.
Yep.
This movie could have been really fun and campy, and instead it took itself really seriously. So it was really bad. However, this may come as a shock, but Megan Fox was really good in this.
Really?
Yeah, she actually pulls off the role of like a badass action hero really well for what it's worth. So maybe,
you know what? Kudos to her.
Yeah, I agree. She really tried in this movie. I'll give her that.
By the way, I've been meaning to tell you, and I sent you a text as soon as I watched it. I finally managed to take in You Can't Kill David Arquette.
Yeah, what did you think of it?
It's exact. I mean, my opinion of it hasn't changed since I sent you the text message. I really liked it, but how much of it was a work?
Yeah, some of it seemed really staged. I was sucked into the narrative, though.
Oh yeah, it did its job well, but it just makes you wonder what's real, what's phony. You know, obviously him having to get rushed off to the emergency room by Jason Priestley was real. Yeah. But as far as everything else, I'm skeptical Tom here. Doubting Thomas. That's my name.
I think the level of hatred towards him was probably exaggerated quite a bit in that movie.
Oh, yeah.
You can't tell me that any of those fanboys who saw David Arquette didn't mark out immediately. It's David Arquette. Why not? The fact
that everybody knows that it's staged and he was just playing a part that he was given.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he didn't necessarily ask to win the world title, but he did, and he was a fan, so he said, what the hell, why not?
Exactly. And most people, last I knew, were rolling their eyes at the whole thing. They didn't have, frothing at the mouth anger whenever you brought it up.
Yeah, it's very interesting and definitely worth a watch. I found it charming how much Courtney Cox and his daughter and stuff were in the movie.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I actually found the backstory about his relationship with his family way more interesting than I did his wrestling comeback.
Yeah, he seems like an interesting dude.
He does.
Yeah. It's streaming on Hulu now or something, isn't it?
I believe it is, yes, sir.
Yeah, it's on something.
I found it by other means.
Gotcha. One more thing that I watched, it was called The Intruder. I watched this last night. It's a 1989 slasher. It takes place during the overnight hours of a grocery store as the store's employees and managers are dealing with the news that the store has been bought and it's going to be shut down. And on top of that bad news, one of the head cashiers, Jennifer, is being stalked by a guy that she dated for 2 months, and this ex has just been released from jail, and he is prime bad boy material, all leather jackets and 5 o'clock shadow. What a creep. And the police are called, and they can't be bothered to find the guy, of course. So then the employees in the store start getting picked off one by one. And their deaths are actually inspired and really original, and the camera does not shy away from the disturbing violence whatsoever. It's filled with all those amazingly delightful, weird, and grotesque 80s practical effects.
I was just thinking the word practical.
Yeah, it's really, really gross at times, some of these kills.
Huh.
You ever see one of those machines in the back that crushes cardboard? And you think,
I am very familiar with them, and I think I know where you're going. Yeah.
yeah. I always thought, man, it would suck if you got some sort of limb stuck in that thing. Well, let's just say a man gets his head put in that. And the camera...
And it sucked.
It sucked real bad, and the camera didn't cut away whatsoever.
Oh man, I'm just picturing that now. I've worked with those machines many times. I could see where that would be horrific.
Yeah. There's a twist that I didn't see coming, so I appreciated that as well. And unlike a lot of these slashers from that era, it actually takes the time to kind of establish the characters and their personalities, which I appreciate. It's got Renee Estevez in it, who we covered before in the second Sleepaway Camp. Ted Raimi is in it. Bruce Campbell.
Oh, you sold me.
Yeah. Bruce Campbell makes a cameo.
Okay, I gotta watch it.
And it's the directorial debut of Scott Spiegel, who co-wrote Evil Dead 2.
Okay, I have heard of this movie. I remember seeing like behind the scenes clips of it on some bootleg Sam Raimi documentary that I bought at a Comic-Con years and years ago. I am familiar with this movie.
Nice.
How did you see it? I definitely want to see this now.
It's free on Tubi. Tubi is a free streaming service, so you just download Tubi to whatever you got. It's on there.
Okay, I remember wanting to see this movie as well as a movie called Thou Shalt Not Kill Except.
Oh, I haven't heard of that one.
It's all I know about it is the antagonists are a group of overly zealous cult members led by psychotic Sam Raimi, and I believe if it's not Scott Spiegel, it's somebody else who worked behind the scenes on the first two Evil Dead movies.
Okay. Huh.
Okay, it's going under the name Intruder?
Yeah, The Intruder.
All right, I am looking for it ASAP.
It's also produced by Lawrence Bender, who went on to win like 36 Academy Awards for producing movies. He did all of Tarantino's movies and a lot of the Miramax stuff. So it's surprisingly good.
Peaked.
Yeah. It's free on Tubi, or if you want to buy the Blu-ray, I think it's like $15 on Amazon. So definitely worth a watch.
All right.
And now our feature presentation.
Yes, one movie that is not available on Blu-ray or DVD unless you want to pay ridiculous prices on the aftermarket.
Yeah, and it's not available on, let's say, legal digital streaming means. And it really baffles me because this movie screams cult classic.
It really does.
It's a shame it's not more widely available. It really is.
I could kind of see why, but we'll get into that.
Okay, so Freaked is like an alternative comedy, vaguely about the environment, but ultimately not about a whole lot. And it plays, I don't know, it plays almost like a satire of some sort, but I'm not sure what it's satirizing. The comedy is...
I thought if David Cronenberg suffered some kind of head injury and just went full-blown body horror, but had a sense of humor about it, he would make something like Freaked.
Yeah, okay. I like that. It's a comedy that alternates wildly between kind of clever and fun and downright stupid, maybe occasionally offensive. There's like brilliant lines in this that at one point Randy Quaid, who runs a freak show or a freak camp or whatever, he actually turns people that stop by his place into freaks. He throws out this line: I can look at a guy like Kevin Costner and see a giant peach grub who can fart the blue Danube. And I laugh so hard. There's amazing bits like that, and then there's other bits that just go right over your head, and you don't really have a time to contemplate what just happened because there's another joke flying at you, so you just get over it real quick.
Well, yeah, before we hit record, I said that this was the second time I watched it in preparation for this episode, and I'm glad, because if this movie has any real fault, it's the pacing. It goes too fast. It is just barraging you with jokes and one-liners and visual gags that you can't keep up.
Yep.
But that does make for a very rewarding, second, third, and probably fourth viewing. I would find something new.
Yeah, I think I've seen it like 4 or 5 times at this point. This all sprang out of the Idiot Box, which was Alex Winter's show on MTV. He was fresh off of Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. How do you feel about the Bill and Ted movies? Have you seen them all?
I have. I own, all of them on various media. I am a fan. They're goofy, they're dumb, but they're just oddly nostalgic. I'm glad I live in a world with Bill and Ted. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, the first one is really lighthearted and like fun and almost innocent, and then the second one has like a real edge to it. And
it gets dark quick. That second one.
I mean, there's robots from the future that come back to the past and fucking murder Bill and Ted.
Yeah, in like the first 10 minutes, I think.
Yeah, and then call them a bad word as they do it, and then they go straight to hell, which seems unfair. William Sadler in that movie as Death is like fucking amazing. And Bill and
he
Ted's
stole the entire goddamn movie.
Yeah, Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. William Sadler is amazing. And William Sadler's in this movie as well as the head of EES, Everything Except Shoes.
Yeah. He's one of those people who just plays a scumbag very, very well. Doesn't matter if it's this movie, Die Hard 2, Shawshank Redemption. He always just has that nice gleam of slime about him,
Yep. He walks around town and leaves a snail trail behind him.
Smiling the whole time, yeah.
Exactly. So, if I'm not mistaken, you said you were a fan of the Idiot Box, right?
I remember loving it when I was in like the 7th and 8th grade. I haven't gone back and rewatched it. The only thing I remember, 2 things specifically about that show, that Alex Winter was almost like the Rod Serling of each episode, except he died in horribly violent ways every single episode. The one I remember the most was, for whatever reason, he was trying to cross a swimming pool using a garbage can as a flotation device. The garbage can tipped up, and it showed him point blank drowning in front of the camera. And at the end of the episode, you just see his body floating in the pool. And the other thing I remember was a spoof of cop shows at the time, where every cop show was named after the main character. It was always some grizzled, badass guy detective. Hunter, Kojak, Spencer for Hire, those kind of things. This one was a story about a cop who stepped on a rusty nail, and it was called Lockjaw.
That's great.
And it just starred a detective who couldn't shut his mouth, literally, and so he's grunting and yelling nonsensical, guttural noises to the victims right before I should say the criminals, before he shoots them mercilessly.
Nice.
And those are the only things I really remember. I keep meaning to go back and rewatching it because every episode's on YouTube. It's only 8 episodes long before they yanked it. I'm probably going to end up doing that as a result of watching this movie.
Yeah, and I think the episodes only total like 8 to 10 minutes in length because they were basically... They were bumpers.
Yeah, it was between videos, if I remember right.
It was just a video show mainly. I mean, this was in the era when MTV felt like the punk rock kind of anti-establishment harbinger of cool. And I'm not really saying that just because I was a kid or a teen at the time when this was happening. Because looking back at it, you'd have to say the same thing. Like there was the Idiot Box, there was Liquid Television, which gave birth to cartoons like Beavis and Butthead and Ion Flux and The Head, and the Real World started in this era, and it was the first time that a lot of kids our age saw like different cultures and values and sexualities actually presented on television, and it gave birth to the whole reality bullshit that happens to this day. And like looking back on what MTV was makes it kind of sad to see what it's become, which is worthless and meaningless. It's got no place in society anymore. I don't even know what they do, but it's all garbage.
Yeah, I always hate criticizing modern day MTV because I feel like the old man sitting on the porch yelling at kids walking by his lawn, but I can't help but think that MTV sucks today.
Yeah, it's awful.
I mean, okay, you don't need to necessarily have music videos nonstop, but you need to have some kind of spark of originality and undercurrent of counterculture.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I remember a few years ago they were showing Friends reruns nonstop, and I'm like, that is the opposite of counterculture.
On fucking MTV?
Yeah, for a while there.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's awful.
But this movie was definitely born out of that. Would you agree? I mean, it feels like Liquid Television, the movie.
Yeah, absolutely. Basically, the Idiot Box ended because they took a deal with Fox to write and direct a movie, which became this right here. Alex Winter said, originally me and Tom Stern and Gibby from the Buttholes, meaning the Butthole Surfers, wrote the first draft, and it was just this extremely graphical, violent, and sexual beach blanket bingo movie on acid. Unsurprisingly, nobody would touch it. We couldn't get anywhere with it. Tom and I had done an enormous amount of psychedelic drugs in our time. This is Tom Stern who co-wrote the movie.
No, really?
Yeah. Many together, many not together, and a lot of that informs our comedy. At the time, it was very, like, kind of off the rails in that way, and we were really influenced by things like Monty Python and Mad Magazine, but we were also influenced a lot by, like, R. Crumb, Zap Comics, Robert Williams, and all of this extremely psychedelic stuff. We were really into the Butthole Surfers at the time because we were good friends with them. From my personal angle, it was absolutely like an acid trip expression of how it felt to be thrust into celebrity, which is what I was going through at the time, but without taking myself too seriously. So that's the basis with which he wrote this movie.
And all of that is absolutely accurate. I mean, it definitely does feel like what I imagine a bad trip would be like. And personally, after watching this movie and hearing that statement, I'd be really curious to see what he could do with a horror movie.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, he's outside of Bill and Ted Face the Music. He directs documentaries these days. He just came out with a documentary on Zappa this year. I've seen the one on Napster. It was really good. I've seen the one.
Yes. It was called Downloaded or something like that, right?
Yeah. He did one on the dark web that was really good. He's really talented, but I do wish he would do more stuff like this. Just weird. And I think streaming would be the perfect place for it.
Yeah, especially if you figure in, crowdfunding. I would kick in $20 if I could see a new movie of this stature and have it sent to me on Blu-ray to keep.
Yeah, I would love to have this movie on Blu-ray just because I feel like, I don't know, it's going to get lost. It basically is lost, so...
But I mean, you figure that a company like Scream Factory or whoever it is, or Shout Factory or whatever that studio that kind of rescues and restores
Vinegar Syndrome, get on it.
Yeah, I mean, this is a perfect movie for that type of boutique distributor that specializes in just really weird, little-known films.
Yeah, Freaked and Tammy and the T-Rex as a double header would be just the best night.
Damn it, this is why you need to run a drive-in.
Yeah, I know, right? It'd be awesome. There is a lot of idiot box in this movie. Not only is it just like we mentioned before, rapid fire jokes and stuff. There's like a reference to the flying gimp right off the bat, which was a character on the idiot box. There's at one point there's a random commercial for Machismo, real cheese for real men. You like cheese? You like being a man? That's why you'll like Machismo, real cheese for real men. And I laugh so hard because I'm an idiot.
Well, I mean, I don't know, maybe it's because I remember the time when this movie came out and I could have seen something like that playing in some random commercial spot on prime time.
Yeah. Yep. So the basic plot of the movie, there's not much here, really.
No.
The framing device is Brooke fucking Shields, by the way. Runs a talk show, and she is interviewing on her show a child star named Ricky Coogan, who is Alex Winter, and he gives his backstory on how he got an endorsement deal from Everything Except Shoes to promote a fertilizer in South America. He takes $5 million to do it, and he flies to South America to promote it. And when he gets to South America in a place called Santa Flan, these are the jokes.
Where everybody speaks English in American accents.
Absolutely. He meets a beautiful hippie played by Megan Ward. Her name's Julie. She's protesting the Zygrot and Ricky Coogan, actually, too. She's wearing an orange beret and a graphic tee that says, "Save the burrowing sloth," so you know she's really passionate about the environment. Then we're off to the races. They decide to stop off at a freak show just because, and then they get turned into freaks.
And none of that really matters, what you just said.
No, not at all.
It's never really brought up too much. I mean, the Megan Ward's political activism isn't really brought up too much.
No, not at all.
His conflict of endorsing a lethal product isn't brought up too much. Just the fact that he knows he's an asshole.
Yes.
It's all in service of getting them to that freak show.
Yep, that's all it is. We should mention that he's got a kind of a troll-like greatest fan, just a super fanboy that loves Ricky Coogan.
Personally, I related to that character the most because I'm a fanboy of various things. I get super excited when I get to meet the idols that I'm passionate for. So I can relate to, what was his name? Skippy?
Stewie. Yeah. Like, Stewie randomly pops up, and when we first see Stewie, he ambushes Ricky on the airplane to South America, ambushes him for an autograph, and then promptly gets sucked out of the plane door and falls.
One of the best visual gags I've ever seen, by the way.
Yeah, he's hanging on to the side of the plane wing, and the stewardess screams that there's a troll on the wing, and then he flies off and drops Wile E. Coyote style and bounces off the ground. That's the kind of comedy we're dealing with.
That you hear him falling to the earth. You're looking at a shot of this huge mound of hay, and you're expecting to, land safely in the hay. No, he lands as hard as you would imagine, right next to the hay, stands up, and has a book fall on his head.
Right.
This movie is just nothing but a series of cruel jokes for this little boy, and I chuckled every time.
Yep, exactly. So Julie and Ricky's best friend Ernie, they go to this freak show, and it's run by Elijah C. Scuggs, who is played by Randy Quaid, who's never turned down a role ever in his life. And he's all about it, too. He's all about this role. He goes for it. And
you know what? I gotta really give credit to Randy Quaid in this movie, because he runs the gamut of playing it very straight to just chewing scenery like a beaver at a naked furniture store.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does.
And honestly, I found his straight readings to be just a little bit more funny for some reason, because he's playing it seriously.
So he straps Julie and Ernie to a machine and Ricky into a machine. Julie and Ernie become like a Siamese twin type deal. So there's lots of gags with that. And Ricky turns into a hideous green monster. Well, half of him anyways. He's like a monstrous version of Two-Face. And boy, oh boy, are the makeup effects in this movie somewhat amazing.
Yes, you and I often sing the praises of practical effects.
Yeah.
This movie has it in spades.
the makeup work on Alex Winter as this green freak is just phenomenal. He's got oozing pustules all over his head and neck and shoulders that periodically shoot out liquid. And Alex Winter's face is like permanently in a grimace like the whole movie. God bless him.
I was watching that one review you were telling me about, and they pointed out that the drool that you see occasionally falling from his mouth wasn't a special effect. It was real drool because the entire time that he's in that makeup, he can't close his mouth.
I mean, it must have been hell to be in that makeup chair and just run around looking like that all day. But I feel like Alex Winter was game for it.
Well, we forgot. Did we mention that he co-directed this?
No.
I'm picturing him standing behind the camera in that full makeup, giving direction and giving critiques of the actors in that full makeup.
Yeah. Yeah, what a set that must have been.
Well, we didn't mention the rest of the supporting cast,
which is quite amazing.
Yes, how they got some of these people, I don't know. We mentioned Brooke Shields, and at the time, I think she had that Suddenly Susan show, so she wasn't hurting for work.
Yeah, it had to be around that same time. Morgan Fairchild played a stewardess on the airplane on the way over. You have Ortiz the dog boy, played by an uncredited Keanu Reeves, who this might be his career performance right here.
I will take 1,000 John Wicks and give them up for one more appearance of Ortiz the dog boy.
Yeah, this is Keanu Reeves at his peak right here. This is great. My one of my criticisms, and this isn't fair, of Bill and Ted Face the Music, the last Bill and Ted movie. Mm-hmm. Keanu Reeves physically didn't age a whole lot. Still looks like $1 million. However,
no. If you go back and if you watch all those movies back to back, you can tell that 25 years has passed for Keanu. And I'm not saying that as a negative thing. I'm just saying it as a fact of life. We all get older, but this theory that Keanu Reeves is some time-traveling vampire was firmly shot in the foot with that movie.
Well, I did watch him back to back, and I think he looks pretty good for his age.
Oh, yeah, he looks amazing for his age, but he looks amazing for his age.
However, the age, I think, all went into his voice, because he just sounds so weary in that movie. Just so tired.
Well, I think that was part of the performance, honestly.
You think so?
I think so. I mean, the whole, one of the plot lines is that they've been busting their ass for 25 years. They still haven't written this song. Their life's kind of starting to fall apart. And he's getting tired, dude.
Yeah. It was kind of the sad twilight years of Bill and Ted.
Yeah.
But he plays Ortiz the dog boy, and he is great. We've got a giant talking cow who's also a boy and a cowboy.
Who gets milked several times, by the way.
Yes. And the makeup effects on John Hawkes, who plays the cowboy, is pretty amazing. John Hawkes, who won an Academy Award for 3 billboards outside, what is it?
No shit!
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, my God.
John Hawkes was an indie darling in those days. Quite an acclaimed actor. There's a movie he did that I just discovered that was like, it came out in the early 90s and was lost for 30 years or something, but it's on Tubi now. It's called Scary Movie. It's definitely worth a watch. We're going to have to cover it one day.
Yeah.
We have Bobcat Goldthwait, who is literally a sockhead.
My personal favorite freak.
He's a sockhead.
Yes.
He's in a man's body, but his head is a sock with little...
And he's just not much of a conversationalist.
Yeah. With little googly eyes.
Imagine a sock puppet that looks like Bobcat Goldthwait on the body of a regular dude, and that's what you have.
I mean, spoiler alert, I know you all saw this coming, but Sockhead gets gunned down by talking Jamaican Uzi wielding eyeballs. So I know you knew that was coming. I'm sorry to.
It's pretty obvious when you think about it.
I mean,
well, the best part about Sockhead is he's not really a Sockhead.
No.
He's just another hand on top of a body.
Yep. We have the bearded lady who is Mr. T in a dress.
And I guess, and the reason why you were saying that this set must have been quite a trip to be on, I guess it was too much for T.
Oh, really?
Because I guess in a lot of the scenes that his character is in, they had to use a body double because he said it was too much for him, and he got the out of there.
Really? Wow.
Yes.
That's interesting.
It was too much for T.
Too much for T. Mr. T's origin story is amazing. He shows up to the freak show, and Randy Quaid looks at him and said, "You'd be better off with a dick."
Without a dick.
Yeah.
Just kind of holds his hand up, whispers it to him confidently.
Yeah. You'd be better off with a dick.
dick.
And Mr. T goes, "Hey," and Randy Quaid says, "Hey, you can keep the beard." And Mr. T says, "Okay, man." And there's a giant talking intellectual worm who would sell his soul just to be able to wipe his own ass. Also, the makeup effects on him are amazing.
You know what it reminded me of? I didn't watch it, but I saw like some stills of it. That last Kevin Smith movie, Yoga Hosers.
Oh, Yoga. Yes, the tiny sausage Adolf Hitler's.
That's what it reminded me of.
Yeah, that's a good call. Yes, I just said tiny sausage Adolf Hitler's. That's a real thing.
They weren't Nazis. They were Bratzies.
Yes, they were.
Oh, Kevin, what the hell happened?
And my favorite joke of the whole scene is a hammer whose origin story is it used to be a wrench.
Yes.
Alex Winter said in an interview that actually came from... God. He says, that grew out of having seen The Hills Have Eyes, which always blew my mind because the dog had a flashback in that movie that actually takes you back through the whole thing. I think the dog was the only survivor, and he shows up and paws at the door, and you push in on its head, and the whole movie takes place. I was like, what could be stupider than that? It was the dumbest thing I'd ever seen, and then an inanimate object having a flashback actually pushed the envelope.
And the best part about it is that the flashback's told from the point of view of the hammer.
Yeah.
And then it cuts back to everybody hearing the story and getting misty-eyed.
Yes. Yeah. That's the saddest story I ever heard, said Mr. T.
Do we want to talk about the ending at all? Do we want to spoil it for people?
I mean, we can spoil the ending. Why not? Go for it.
Well, basically, Randy Quaid's character is going to use Alex Winter to kill all the freaks and then use more of the fertilizer to grow a whole new crop of freaks.
Yep.
Turns out that the sponsor of the freak show is the EES Corporation, and William Sadler comes down to see the machine in action. Well, the worm is basically trying to have a plot where they're going to program the machine where once Randy Quaid turns Alex Winter into a full-fledged freak, he's programmed to kill Randy Quaid instead of the freaks. That doesn't work. Luckily, Stewie is there, and an audience member gets annoyed at him and douses him with a pure concentrated form of that fertilizer. And he himself becomes a freak, leading to one of the most bizarre, grotesque, but badass fight scenes I've seen in quite a while.
Yeah. Yeah, two grown practical effects fighting each other with bulging eyes and distended limbs, and it is pretty gnarly and also awesome.
It is. Stewie reaches out and taps into Alex Winter's heart. He realizes that he loves the kid, turns on Randy Quaid, chucks him into a vat of the fertilizer, and all of a sudden Brooke Shields pops out.
Yep.
His freak version is a beautiful woman in a business suit.
Yeah, that's right. I mean,
Then you just cut right back to the talk show. They shine a light on Alex Winter. Turns out that he went back. He was cured because they ate this Deus Ex Machina of what were the cookies?
oh, I don't even know.
Macadamia nuts
Something
or
like that, yeah.
macaroons or something like that. Everybody liked them except for the worm, who just didn't like those cookies. And so they
Right.
all got turned back into their human forms. And you see this giant worm just kind of pouting. Well, fine. It's great for everybody who liked those cookies.
And then Brooke Shields gets gunned down
Because it turns out that she was Randy Quaid the entire time.
which is the dumbest plot twist there ever was. But
But it's fitting
yeah,
in
definitely.
This movie celebrates its stupidity.
And also, I mean, it's not any dumber than any number of slasher movies that tried a similar dumb twist like that either. So,
I was going to say, we just reviewed a movie with what I think was an even dumber twist.
yeah, good old Terror Train.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And then Ricky and Julie kiss because Julie forgot how much she hates his stinking guts. So, I guess that was a fortunate side effect of the macaroons.
What's your final verdict on this?
Oh, I think everyone should watch this. I love this movie.
I like this movie, but I really, really wish I could have seen it when it came out, because I would have been 15, 16 years old when it came out. I think I would have been the perfect age for this movie.
Absolutely. This is someone's favorite movie based on what age they saw it.
Yes, I think I may have seen it too late in life to truly, absolutely love it. I like it a lot, but I think it would have been one of those movies that I would have looked back on fondly if I had seen it back in '93.
Yeah. And this is definitely a movie that needs to find a larger audience, and hopefully a Blu-ray that doesn't cost $75 comes out soon, or it lands on some streaming service, because it needs to. Vinegar Syndrome, get on it. Get those rights. Make it happen.
Well, it's like they said on Red Letter Media, it is in the Fox library, so this is now a Disney movie, and I don't see Disney really wanting to rush this back into production anytime soon.
Yeah, that's true. Man, they probably don't even realize they have it.
Oh, they're sitting on so many things that they probably don't even know about. It's probably just some line in a ledger somewhere.
But the thing about Disney is they like to make money. So if they can make a few bucks out of a movie that's already been released, then
Just sell the rights to another studio, for Pete's sake.
sell the rights to Alex Winter. He'll freaking put it out
Yeah.
himself.
I mean, it's not making them any money at all. It's just sitting there.
Yeah.
I'm sure that he could do something with it.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a fun time, I think, and it's pretty stupid, but also
Oh, it's very stupid. It's amazingly stupid, though.
yeah, but I think you'll have people, well, a certain type of person will look at it and say, this is stupid, turn this off. And another person will appreciate how brilliantly stupid it is. So I guess your mileage will vary.
Well, you know what? I'm glad you recommended it. I don't know if I'd have ever watched it were it not for this podcast, and my gratitude to you, sir.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you can send me $50 in the mail as a reward.
Tell you what, I'll send you a copy of Meet the Feebles in exchange.
Okay, because Meet the Feebles is what we're covering next. A gross, grimy puppet movie.
It's basically the Muppet Show from hell.
That's a good description. I've heard legendary stories about Meet the Feebles. I've never watched it. That's all about the change.
You have a character that's clearly supposed to be Kermit the Frog, who's a heroin addict suffering from Vietnam flashbacks.
I mean,
That's what you're in for, sir.
sunshine and rainbows, it sounds like.
Brought to you by Academy Award-winning director Peter Jackson, folks.
Yeah. God, people are weird.
Yes.
Speaking of weird, tell people where they can find you on the World Wide Web?
Well, you can find me on a little show called Jake and Tom Conquer the World. Believe it or not, we actually released an episode, and we've got plans for a couple more. You can listen to us pretty much anywhere you can find a podcast. On Twitter, you can find us at The Drunken Dork, and on Facebook at Jake and Tom Conquer the Group. What about you, Randall?
You can find me on the Facebook.com in a group called Miserable Retail Slave, which is the name of the big dumb comedy show I host with good old Tommy Thompson. Also, this show is a thing I do. You can find me on Twitter at mretailslave. Also, I've got another show that I recorded 3 episodes of yesterday.
Damn.
Yeah, it's coming out soon. It doesn't have a name yet, so gonna work on that. But it's a Seinfeld rewatch podcast, and it was a lot of fun. So that's coming out. The Miserable Retail Network is forming.
The empire is yours, sir.
Oh my goodness. Yep.
I'm just happy to be a stoolie.
Stoolie?
Yes. I reread it not too long ago, so
okay.
It's a 50 slang.
Gotcha. Well, you be the stoolie, I'll be the greaser, and we'll see you next time, baby.
See ya.